Hi, I'm Noelle Rollins, an artist of 30 plus years, and today we're going to be drawing a mouth in colored pencil. This one's a little different because you'll see we have a little bit of goth makeup going on with a really fun edgy black upper lip. So if you want to see how I did it, as well as you're always welcome to leave comments of tips you have for others or myself. I am still learning, but I like to share what I know and hopefully it can help you, and I love to get help from others too. So stick around, let's get started. So here, as I get started, relaying out the lines of the lips. So I always like to say I am someone where I like a little bit of detail, but I am not full on like technical, want to know every detail, which I think is probably pretty common in the art field. So if you're wanting just a little bit of a deep dive, see how someone else draws lips and the order that I do it in, and take what you can, leave what you don't need, great. If you're looking for a super technical, exact step by step, I'm probably not your person. I like more of let's story tell, let's talk about art, let's talk about why we do art, and also watch and learn at the same time. So I always start with my darkest colors. Here you can see I've just started sketching in. To my left of this setup here, have a reference photo on my computer, and so I'm constantly looking back and forth. Her mouth is closed here. And what I'm doing is just sketching in the darker lines of the lips. At this beginning part, it could look like the mouth is open. I can see that now. So I'm going in. This is a Crayon Dash Luminance colored pencil, and I really like these. I switch between this brand and Faber-Castell Polychromos for the most part. So then I just went in and laid a base layer of that light pink color. And then working on where the lip line blends in with the skin here. So when I draw, I tend to bounce around a little bit. Once I have this color in my hand, I'll do what needs to be done on the lips, and then I also kind of glance back at the skin around, and I'll kind of add that touch back in if there's a little bit more that could be done. So you'll notice a little bit of that. And I also really feel when, especially the features like the nose and the mouth, they really just blend in with the skin around. So it's not always easy to have a very distinct line in between them. So now I'm going in with a little bit deeper pinkish red. A sharp pencil is going to be your best friend in this situation. What I like to do is go through and pick out all the colors ahead of time. I have a whole video on this if you want to go back in my videos and watch. And then I go through and sharpen every one of them. The colors like black and white and some of the beige tones, I have multiple of those just so I can have multiples ready. My whole goal is once I'm actually in the zone of drawing, I sometimes feel a little bit like I'm going, under scuba, under the ocean or something, where I have to fully prepare and then immerse myself in that mental place. Maybe that's something that happens once you have kids and business things that are also happening. I have to kind of fight to defend that time a little bit. So sharpening the pencils and getting that stuff ready is sometimes really good activities for that in-between time where you're not fully in the creative zone, but you are working towards getting there. So for the most part, I have a pretty light hand here. And I'm just lightly working on doing layers. I tend to work in a way where I do lots of layers of various colors and to work up the color rather than, you can even see with the skin tone around the mouth. There's layers of yellow in there, beige browns, little bits of blues, pinks, greens. And I prefer that method. It gives me a little more control. It helps me who, I've been an artist of 30 plus years, but I still am working on color, working on building colors. It's a constant exercise that seems to be a little bit new every time. So I enjoy that, and doing that in multiple layers allows me to do that at a little bit slower pace and really feel the color as I build it. So lightly just working on the continued texture of the lip. The portrait subject for this drawing is 11 years old, and so I really had to work at defining the lips and showing some of the character of the lips, but not go too extreme. And even the skin around, as I'm doing this, you'll see later in the portrait, you can tell by, at the end of this video, I will show the finished portrait. I've really went through and just blended in, burnished a little bit more with a lighter color to just lighten everything up and blend it together a bit better. Shadowing and texture is one of my favorite things to do in portraits. And so I love getting to draw people that have lines on their faces and just this beautiful character. But working on someone who's 11 is a very different experience, of course, because you have to show restraint in those areas and do just enough, but keep that youthfulness. So what I did here is I really worked at trying to have all the detail and then played it back a little bit if I needed to, went through with a lighter color and lightened it back up and played between those. This whole drawing was a bit bigger. I believe it was 14 by 18 inches. So a little bit more room to get in there and get that detail on there. Some of my favorite colors that I found myself using the most in this portrait were burnt sienna, 10%, and that is from the Crayon Dash Luminance 6901. My first base layer where you saw me go in and outline the lips, I chose a very dark sepia. That was also Luminance number 437. Here I'm going in with more of a taupe color with the polychromos. And then one of my favorite colors to use is, I'm looking at this and I can tell suddenly life happens where I have to hold the colored pencil further away from me to read it. I'm going to have to figure that one out in a second. And then one of my other favorites are the Venetian, the deep red. So deep red with Faber-Castell polychromos and Venetian red, 9201-190. I love that one with the lips. It has a more muted tone to it, which is just fabulous. So with this goth makeup here, this was my first time doing black lipstick. And what I wanted to do is really play up that Willow somewhat outlines their lip line, but they do a little bit dramatic peaks. And then I really try to stay in the direction of the lip line as I'm going across the main parts of the upper lip. So going and doing strokes up and down for the most part to really capture, just very subtly, I'll start to capture that natural cracks we all have in our lips. Because with black, I didn't just want to fill it in solid. I still wanted to show some of the shape of the lip. And so I'm focusing on shadowing more at the top and the bottom with some natural way the light would hit in the middle of the upper lip. And I chose to take a little more whimsical approach with this portrait. So I had fun with adding a little bit of other colors also within this lip and even within the skin tone itself. So here I'm with the gray. I'm putting a little bit more pressure here, starting to blend that back together, get rid of that paper color behind. Another technique I could have used here was to go in with a small little brush and lay down some gray watercolor or a gray art marker first. And that would have eliminated all of the white paper showing through and really saved time. Watercolor is just something that I found is just such a fun base layer. And you can get so much color down. And it's an art, obviously, in itself. But then it just allows you to come in with the colored pencil and really play up the highlights, lowlights beyond that color, which is fun. So here I'm coming in with a little bit lighter color with a little bit more pressure. And I'm using that to sort of burnish out the colors and blend them together a little bit. This is a little bit of a purple tone. Willow has purple hair, and so I chose to bring that into the skin tone a little bit as well. I'm going to show you a little bit here of drawing the chin and the skin around the lips. I think that's really important. The lips are one thing, but how they connect to the face and the way that the colors play off each other are important to do. And I often feel like it's so much easier to find tutorials on how to do eyes and lips. But the vast majority of the face is all of the skin connecting all of those features. So here you can see the finished result. I went in and really smoothed those lips, added a little bit of white highlights. I played up the pinks and the yellows and the brown within the skin. Added a few freckles and moles. The way the lines meet at the end and the edges of the lips are really important to be really as accurate as possible when you're drawing a mouth. That is what's going to follow through with the expression on the face. And you can have a little bit of fun shading with the colors with that. Here I chose to have a light yellow coming in from our left side as a viewer of Willow's face, and so I could have a little bit of fun with some of that color, and then the deeper purples and greens kind of shaded in other areas, and so you can see that within the shading of the mouth as well. I also went in with a little bit of white highlight and a white Posca marker and just added a few of dots onto the lips to really play up the highlights there. So I'll be sharing the rest of this portrait too in little bite-sized chunks and along with a few shorts, but I'd love for you to follow along. I really love sharing these drawings. I'm also in my 40s. I just went back to college and I'm working on some marketing and business courses, and I actually have some art courses coming up too, and I just think it's going to be such a fascinating experience as someone who's been an artist for 30 years to go back to college and find out what they're going to teach me. And I'm a little nervous that they're going to take away some of my love of art, to be honest. I hear horror stories, but I'm also really receptive always to learning more and growing as an artist. So I'm going to be sharing some of that here on my YouTube channel as well, as I continue just doing portraits all about bringing people's character out in the way that I draw them, but also, hoping to teach people some things too about drawing. We live out in the woods, an hour outside of a major city, but just have this wonderful, beautiful little life here in a workshop and some pets and chickens and ducks. And life is really fun. And I'm excited to keep sharing that with all of you. So thank you so much for watching. I'd love for you to watch some of my other videos and make sure you subscribe. I am really working towards getting up to 1,000 followers, and I'd be so grateful if you'd be a part of that. Thanks so much. Have a great day.